I tried to play devil's advocate and think, you know, everything is fine. This is just another cycle, and these things happen. They take years to resolve sometimes, and then life moves on. But then I come back to reality with a dozen articles every single day that just make things oh so much worse, and showcase just how incompetent or intentionally brilliant, and by brilliant I mean brain dead, the NATO and friends are. Time to jump across the pond for a change and look at the geopolitical and war updates for Russia, Ukraine, and of course we can't do that anymore without including updates from the US, Nordic countries, and now it seems even Iran can't escape the daily news cycle. Welcome everybody to The Real Report. Let's shoot for 3 likes, 3 million subscribers. This clip is worth a listen on the monetary cost of the war as inflation again continues to rampage the US economy. And no, it's not your screen or mine. This is just the tweet's upload quality. Again, go ahead and slap the like button, comment down below, subscribe with the notification bell. Here we go.
Yeah, Neil, thanks for having me. Look, I think there's a valid concern there, and it all comes down to accountability. We're in day 253 of this war in Europe. There's been no end state defined. We don't have a plan to end the war. We haven't talked about one. All we're doing is throwing money at it. We put $18 billion into the war, economically, humanitarian aid, and military aid. That's a big number, but let's break it down to an hourly rate. That means we're spending $2.5 million an hour in Ukraine. That's the U.S. taxpayers' money, again, with no accountability. You know, the Kiel Institute, the Economic Institute, Kiel, Germany, did a survey, and you kind of just hit on it a minute ago. They looked at all the European countries, and we're paying double what all the other European countries are doing combined. And here's where I think the president needs to go, and the Republicans, if they take the Congress, need to go. They need to explain to the American people why we're doing this, why we're in Ukraine, should we be in Ukraine, and here's a desired end state. You know, take a page from what George C. Marshall did in 1947 when he went to Harvard University at their commencement and explained the European Recovery Plan, better known as the Marshall Plan, when he explained why it was in Americans' best interest to do this. Nobody's done that, and that needs to be done for the American people. It's American taxpayers' money. They need to know where it's going.
I would agree with that. It is our money, and we would like to know where it is at least going. And in other news, the U.S. greenlights guided rockets for Finland to bolster Europe's northern flank. Washington is moving forward with assisting Finland in improving its security situation at the moment. Its controversial application to join NATO remains stalled due to objections from Turkey and Hungary. The State Department has approved the potential sale of another $535 million worth of guided multiple launch rocket systems, GMLRS, and related equipment to Helsinki, contribute to the land and air defense capabilities of Europe's northernmost allied outpost near Russia. You know, what was it about Russia? They were going to start the whole war in Ukraine. Oh, that's right, because they were tired of NATO encroaching every single year closer and closer to Moscow. That's what it was. This proposed sale will support the foreign policy and, guess what, the national security of the United States. Such a wonderful canned phrase we hear as a justification for almost everything. The political stability and economic progress in Europe is an important factor, vital to the United States national interest. To assist Finland, we need your money. Uncle Sam needs you, which I think is funny coming off the back of the clip about how much money we've spent in Ukraine, which we're actually going to get into later in this video because it relates back to the midterms, which are still wrapping up. Finland shares an 800-mile border with Russia, and the Kremlin has warned that any observable buildup of NATO infrastructure near the border will trigger Russian forces to do the same. They have said this over and over again. Moscow has further warned of nuclear buildup in the standoff in the Baltic region over Finland's potential entry into NATO. Again, talking about Europe's northern flank, the increased national stock is critical to Finland's defense and deterrence due to the deteriorated security situation in Europe. Here you can see the map of everyone from Norway, Poland, Hungary, Romania, etc., Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, countries on the border. And Italy's government is open to supplying Ukraine with air defense systems. Rome is ready to provide Ukraine with a variety of air defense systems, an Italian coalition official said just 2 days ago. Rome is ready. However, it remains unclear how many of these it could offer or when any shipment might be delivered. And Russia gave stolen Western weapons cash to Iran. Something that you should think about as we go through the next several articles. How much money do you think all of these countries, I guess the BRICS will sum it up to, have saved on R&D? Now that's research and development by simply stealing everyone else's better tech. That's been the Chinese's motto for decades. Russia flew over $140 million in cash and seized Western anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles to Iran in late August. Now an interesting one there, $140 million in cash. I guess they found that just on the ground in Ukraine. They didn't really elaborate. Seized munitions include British NLAW anti-tank missiles, U.S. Javelin anti-tank missiles, Stinger anti-aircraft missiles. The shipment was intended for Ukraine that fell into Russian hands. So there we have the answer. The $140 million plus weapons was meant for the Ukrainians and is now on its way, well, already in Iran, and now they're going to reverse engineer it and have nearly the same equipment as us as far as handheld launchers go. And the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps will probably be reverse engineered and used in future wars, which gets us into Benjamin Netanyahu's issue in October. Funny enough, he warned the opposition to demand by Ukraine for Israel to provide anti-aircraft weapons for the Ukrainian military, warning that any weapons provided to Ukraine could end up in Iran's hands in an interview with MSNBC, saying that weapons we supply in one battlefield end up in Iranian hands and then used against Israel. Russian Marines complain of incomprehensible losses in Ukraine. So it's interesting to get both sides. Once again, we were thrown into an incomprehensible battle. Someone from the front reportedly said that was to get more medals for his commander. Lost about 300 men, 50% of their equipment in 4 days. He said that was their brigade alone. So it's interesting if we ever get any real numbers from either side, because of course Ukraine is not telling the truth about their losses either. And Ukraine Zelensky urges unwavering support if the GOP takes House in midterms. This is what I was talking about. Concern is mounted in the war-torn nation that Washington's support may weaken if Republicans gain control in Congress. Democracies must not stop on their way to the victory, Zelensky urged, and Republicans would not write a blank check if they win back the lower chamber. That's from Kevin McCarthy. And 75% of Americans still support aiding Ukraine against Russian President Vladimir Putin, but McCarthy and other hardline lawmakers have claimed that support will not hold against rising inflation. This is something that I keep talking about in most of my videos, is if it's between heating your homes and feeding your children, you are 100% of the time going to pick that rather than sending more aid to Ukraine. That's just how it works. And McCarthy also told reporters in October, quote, "I think people are going to be sitting in a recession and they're not going to write a blank check to Ukraine." And Taylor Greene, regardless what you think about her, said, "Under Republicans, not another penny will go to Ukraine if the GOP wins the House." So we will see. And another interesting one about Russia. Putin's foes meet to plot his elimination as Russian corpses pile up in Donetsk. Anti-Russian activists and former Russian politicians who, as a little side note, I doubt will be around very long. They have a habit of falling off of multi-story buildings, if you catch my drift, have reportedly been meeting in Poland to discuss options for moving Putin from power, including by, this is a nice way to spin the headline, physically eliminating him. Interesting choice of words. Maltsev, who fled Russia in 2017 after being labeled an extremist by the state. All right. And Russia warns that the world's 5 nuclear powers are, guess what, on the brink of direct armed conflict. Again, not something you want to listen to while eating breakfast, probably. Russia's foreign ministry said it fears the world's 5 declared nuclear powers are on the brink of a direct armed conflict, with Moscow warning of catastrophic fallout and insisting that avoiding a clash is its top priority. Nuclear war cannot be won. That is a headline that we've seen thrown around quite a few times from Putin. At least that makes sense. Nobody's going to win in an Armageddon. Ukraine war is a warm-up. The big one is coming. And U.S. behind in nuclear, Admiral warns. The U.S. Stratcom head warned that China and Russia are out-competing America in the nuclear arena and that we're losing deterrence. Also not what I wanted to read. America is losing its competitive edge in nuclear weapons capabilities. This Ukraine crisis that we're in right now, this is just the warm-up, said Richard. The big one is coming, and it isn't going to be very long before we're going to get tested in ways that we haven't been tested in a long time. I'd also draw a lot of attention to this article, given the fact that we've had our nuke sniffers, excuse me, it's been a long day, out. All kinds of emergency signals being put out. Of course, it's all gobbledygook, unless you are, of course, in the know. So it's interesting what we're looking for, what kind of drills we're running, and why. And another quote out of the article: as I assess our level of deterrence against China, the ship is slowly sinking, he said. It's sinking slowly, but it is sinking, as fundamentally they are putting capability in the field faster than we are. Not good. They've demonstrated little interest in reducing their reliance on nuclear weapons. By contrast, the United States is focused on the timely replacement of legacy fielded systems that are rapidly approaching their end-of-life service. And the Stratcom commander called on the U.S. military to look for inspiration in how it operated in the 50s to restore its competitive advantage. You know, this has been a reoccurring theme as I continue to cover military updates from us not reaching recruitment quotas to aging equipment, aging aircraft fleets, boats that need maintenance and replaced, and also covered China's pace of fielding new equipment, which has been proven to be faster than us. Russia issues warning that Britain is too deep in this conflict, bringing the NATO member up to the line of no return, claiming that evidence that the British military assisted a Ukrainian drone attack on his country's Black Sea fleet and was involved in blowing up that pipeline to Germany, and that it would soon become public, quote, pretty soon. Dangerous because it escalates the situation. Russia and British militaries over the course of the war came last month when a Russian warplane released a missile in the vicinity of an RAF, the Royal Air Force, Rivet Joint Surveillance aircraft, a supposed malfunction widely interpreted as a warning for the British to keep their distance from the conflict zone. So again, more escalatory things. And Ukraine advisor to Zelensky says Ukraine might strike drone production areas in Iran. More escalation. Iran admits supplying Russia with drones for the first time. Iran has on Saturday for the first time admitted to supplying Russia with drones, saying we supplied Russia with a limited number of drones months before the war in Ukraine. And this is why part of my title of the video is that politicians are clowns, duh. Because all of this political jargon and how they phrase things, and you know, the game is just goofy. Okay, we all know what's going on. Everybody just wants to play musical chairs and dance around things. Nobody can just speak the truth or be honest. And instead we get absolute nonsense interactions like this entire article. Oh, yeah, you know, I'll just read the article. You'll see exactly what I mean. So the Iranian position is that the drones were never intended for use on the Ukrainian battlefield. And that in a telephone conversation with the Ukrainian foreign minister last week, quote, we agreed that if there was evidence of Moscow's use of Iranian drones, he would provide that evidence to us. If the Ukrainian side keeps its promise, we can discuss this issue in the coming days, and we will take into account their evidence. So we can have a meeting about the meeting to discuss the material of the meeting, to then schedule a further meeting, and then talk about, at that meeting, the implications for this country, and then we can get a meeting with that country to talk about this country. It's all just bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm going to use put $1 in my swear jar, because I'm going to say it again, so cover your dog's ears. It is absolute bullshit. All of it. Completely ridiculous. Anyone with an IQ above 65 can read through all of the lines. Up to 40% of the nation's electrical supply stations have been damaged or knocked offline since then, using these kamikaze drones, which have clearly been recorded on thousands of Telegram channels. Watching them live in use, looking exactly like this picture. You can hear them. They sound identical. They look identical. They explode pretty similar to the test footage from Iran. But instead we're playing this silly game of, I don't know. I didn't do it. Oh, you didn't? Well, we have evidence. Well, we can make a meeting and talk about the evidence. It's ridiculous. That is incomprehensible. Not the Russian losses, this political game with Iran. That is ridiculous. Iran has tested satellite launchers successfully amid rising hostility with the United States. Iran announced Saturday the successful test flight of a rocket capable of propelling satellites into space. Iran is alleged to have provided Moscow with military equipment to help its Ukraine war efforts. The United States has repeatedly voiced concern that such launches could boost Iran's ballistic missile technology. You think? But Iran insists it is not seeking nuclear weapons and that its satellite and rocket launches are for civil or defense purposes only. Wink, wink. Absolutely incredible. I'm losing brain cells today. I'm sorry, guys. U.S. Special Forces will showcase first ever live fire of airdropped cruise missiles off northern Norway. Now, the only thing that is not cool about this article is the fact they're doing it obviously right on Russia's doorstep, but I've got the video from Lockheed Martin and it's actually pretty cool, so I'll play that in just a second. The brand new Rapid Dragon is a highly potent weapon system that can launch a swarm of cruise missiles from a standard military transport plane. The United States, with NATO members, will for the first time exercise this strike capability inside the Arctic Circle over the Norwegian Sea sometime between, well, today and the 11th. This is not signaling to Russia or any adversary. Sure. And it's got a short runway deployment. Here's the clip. It's very cool.
Palletized munitions enable mobility aircraft to deploy cruise missiles, promising to provide a near-term means to increase capacity of fires. A modular deployment system offers a flexible payload configuration to meet mission requirements, with a 6-pack configuration for C-130 deployment and a 9-pack for C-17s. An onboard control module enables the missiles and battle management system to communicate, so missions and targets can be updated while the aircraft is airborne. Palletized munitions are compatible with standard airlift inventory systems. They provide a roll-on, roll-off capability with no aircraft modifications. The Air Force Strategic Development Planning and Experimentation Office, Air Force Futures, and Lockheed Martin are partnering with Air Mobility Command and Air Force Special Operations Command to conduct flight tests. First up are in-flight jettison tests to demonstrate safe deployment from a C-17 and a C-130. Followed by live-fire demonstrations for both aircraft, the first by the end of 2021. Palletized munitions are a potential force multiplier that enable combatant commanders to strike from more airfields and engage more targets, while offering mobility aircraft and crews a rapid transition back to primary missions. Rapid Dragon, bringing more mass to the fight.
So, as you can see there, the technology is pretty cool. I usually enjoy reading up on that, staying up to date, and of course they're using that to strengthen NATO up north on their 800-mile flank, essentially, which we talked about earlier. If you guys find anything of value, go ahead and smack the like button, subscribe with the notification bell, comment down below. Even if you're lazy, hit a thumbs up, emoji, and if you so feel inclined, I'll leave the buy me a coffee in case you would like to tip your favorite host down below. See you guys in the next one.